Hello. Welcome to this episode. I'm Nicole Renee, intuitive mindset coach. If you're new to my world, today we're talking about how to effectively utilize getting intuitive readings in your life. I'm going to tell you first why I am sharing this, aside from the fact that somebody beautiful did request this topic. But at a time in my life when I was newer to intuitive readings, newer to the spiritual world, which I'm grateful and lucky that I really got into this stuff really young, and it helped me so much. It helped pave a path of personal growth and spiritual connection, which I'm so grateful for that foundation. But there was definitely a time where I had a lot more insecurities. I still had a lot of healing work to do, and I would utilize readings as a way to really try to control the future and know what the future was going to be. And a lot of that came from a lack of trust in myself, a lack of trust in life, a lack of trust in my higher power, which unfortunately, I think those things sometimes are more common than not. And I also think that we go through phases. Sometimes life throws things at us and we need to digest and process that and find our way back to our confidence and our trust. But my point and my focus is specifically to empower you in how you're utilizing readings, whether you are doing readings on yourself, utilizing oracle cards, this sort of thing, whether you are going to a reader, to a medium, to a tarot reader. How do you go into those services so that you really come away empowered? I think one of the things that I have observed sometimes too is that people will be afraid to go into a reading thinking that they're going to be told something that is going to be life-altering or negative. And I do think that in the past, you did see way more readers in the past than you do now. I really do think that there is this wave of personal empowerment that is infusing this new, I don't really want to use the word new age, this new era. Let's use that, this new era that is emerging where people are really making sure that their messages are coming through for the purpose of empowerment, not as a purpose to manipulate and control. I also believe that in the olden days, where are these words coming from? I think Hollywood is responsible for, in the past, making things like mediumship and intuition into negative, but that it was not really a positive thing. And I think it instilled a lot of fear in people. And I'm not even going to go into religions because ultimately I really think that there are religions out there that don't believe that you should do those things. And if you're religious and that's what you believe, I fully respect that, right? I really believe that we have a right as individuals to decide our own connection with our higher power, to decide if we're going to subscribe to religious beliefs or not, and that ultimately we should all have that freedom to decide as long as it's not hurting anybody. So all that being said, I do think that there has been this fear and stigma, and I do think that there has been readers, intuitives, astrologers that have not always brought the highest ethical stance in their work. That happens in every industry. That's just part of being human, unfortunately. So all that being said, how do you, as a person who is drawn to these arts, who is aligned with these arts, who wants to get readings now and then, how do you utilize these in such a way that is going to empower you, on your journey, that is going to help you build your own intuition so that your own intuition gets stronger, your connection to your guides, to your higher self, to your higher power gets stronger? In my world, that's really the aim. And that was really the shift that I made. When I noticed myself really going to get readings to try to figure out what was going to happen in a relationship or in a job, and observing myself in this really obsessive, controlling way of being, and realizing how much that way of being was truly disempowering to me. It was not having me show up as my best self. It was not having me show up confident to make my own decisions, to lead my own life. And in a way, at first I wanted to blame the readings or blame that world, but really it was me. I was the one that was bringing that to the reading. I was the one that was essentially giving my power to the reader. And I share this with you today because, number one, of course, you always want to choose a reader, whether that's a medium, whether it's a psychic, whether it's someone who's doing oracle or tarot, whether it's someone who's doing Akashic records. You choose someone that you really feel safe with, that you really feel like you can trust. And I also recommend that you go into it really feeling like whenever you hear, you're going to take, and knowing that you are endowed with free will as a human. And you're most of the time, and I'll go into this a little bit more, but most of the time, what is being read and what is being pulled through the cards, what is being pulled through the reading is your energetic imprint at that time. So your energetic imprint is going to be manifesting and creating what is to come. And so your energy can then be read. And so in my experience, your energetic imprint pulls through the cards. And it's a great way to see, how is what I'm manifesting, what I'm creating, my mindset, my energy, what I'm doing in the present time, how is that showing up out there? How is it landing? And sometimes those readings can then give you a space to go, oh, okay, that's pulling up. That's not quite what I want to put out there. I'm going to adjust my mindset, my inner work, and I'm going to shift that so that it's more in alignment with what it is that I am creating. Now, I'm someone that subscribes to the belief that there are divine agreements of things that you're going to experience in your life, people that you're going to be with, people that you're going to meet. But again, you also have free will. You have the ability to create, and that is there for a reason. So when you utilize a reading to just open you up to messages, and this is tip number 2, I'm throwing in some tips at you as I'm talking about this, that when you go in, aside from being with someone that you feel safe with and knowing that you can really hear what's going to come through, say a prayer or ask your guides to come through with the highest message for you that you need to hear. Maybe it's on something specific, right? But you go in with the intention that this is going to be empowering to you. This is going to be an empowering experience to me. Say a prayer or ask your higher guidance to come through in a really clear way to support you in your next steps, or however you want to frame it or say it, right? But you coming to that, driving the bus. Obviously, you want that reader to be able to read you, but you don't want to be giving your power away so much that you're afraid of what they might say, or you're afraid of what might come through or what might not come through. Think really watching for that. When we use readings as a way to empower ourselves, if we're developing our own intuition and there are things that we have a sense of, it's great to then know, is what I'm intuiting, is what I'm feeling and sensing showing up in the reading. And I know for me that the more and more that I have developed my own intuition, my own connection with myself, more often than not, when I go to a reader, when I go to a medium, they are coming through with messages that truly align with that. Now, of course, sometimes things are going to come out of nowhere, and that's great, right? Because it's this opportunity to see our blind spots or to receive the messages and guidance that maybe we weren't able to hear or see just on our own, which is really one of the greatest benefits of getting a reading, of getting a reading from somebody, because we can intuit and sense all day long. And when it comes through different readers' eyes or hand or voice, right? Like we can hear it in a way that it hits us. This is another reason why I strongly believe in experimenting with different readers. hearing mediumship through, for me, when I see a medium, what's great is I've had my mom, my brother, my grandmother always come through, but they'll come through in different ways. And because it's essentially the interpretation of energetic communication, right? And like, if you learn a language from me, or you learn a language from 2 or 3 other people, how you learn it is going to be a little bit different. How you speak and how you listen is going to be a little bit different. So it's the same thing when you're going to different mediums, different readers. And I think it's really important to focus on that. My invitation to you is to pull back from, if you're having any obsessive need to like figure out if this person is your person or know what the future holds. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I invite you to set that aside and start experimenting with tapping into, what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you know? Getting clear on what you're manifesting, what you're creating, and then step into the reading, just open to hear the messages to see how that's lining up. What is showing up? What from my energy field is showing up through this reading? And I feel like it's really important to add too that different readings can be for different things. So if you're going to someone who's reading tarot or is reading oracle cards, right? That is one modality of divination, essentially. If you're going to a medium, your purpose there could really just be to connect with spirit, but it also could be to connect with a specific loved one. And that's totally valuable. I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me where a loved one comes through and it validates my connection to them. It validates my connection to spirit, to God. And it can be, again, this really powerful, healing, empowering experience. So I invite you to do a little evaluation on yourself of like, how am I utilizing readings in my life, if that's something that I'm doing? Am I bringing fear to it? Am I bringing any type of need to control or obsessiveness to it? Can I set those things aside and really just have this new way of experiencing readings that is empowering to me? One more thing I want to say about that. I don't hear this as much, which I think is so great. But back in the day, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, sometimes I would find astrologers that would really highlight like the negative things. And I understand enough about astrology to know that, yeah, sometimes there are what's called like hard angles, or like they call them squares, where planets in the solar system are hanging out at certain angles that sort of create an environment, an energetic environment for challenge. But oftentimes a lot of those challenges are there to bring things to light, to unstuck things. And I do think that a lot of those challenges are meant to occur, right? Like sometimes we are just meant to go through certain experiences that maybe are uncomfortable, but we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I went through that because all the things that come of it. So I used to find that, and I guess I'm just saying this because if you are following astrologers and they're putting a lot of negativity into their horoscope, into their delivery, be careful with that. Because you're not coming to it. There is another way. I follow astrologers that I find they're empowering. They're just essentially giving you a weather report. And I also personally, I don't want to say I take it with a grain of salt, but again, it's a balanced perspective, right? Like I'm not walking on eggshells with the planetary shifts, but I am taking it into account, realizing in my point of view, like we live in a solar system, we live with these other bodies on these other planets. And if the sun affects us the way that it does and the moon affects us the way that it does, then of course these planets are going to be affecting us subtly. And again, we can't forget that we have free will as well. I challenge you, and actually I'd love to know from you, how have you done readings in the past or gotten readings in the past? Are you doing it in a way that you feel has been empowered to you? Have you ever had a bad experience with a reading? If so, let me know. I'd love to you want me to talk more about it, or you just want to share, happy to hear that. How do you use readings? How is it benefiting you? Do you have a reader that you love? Are you still not sure about getting readings? And yeah, let me know what you think and how this has helped you today. And I'll see you in the next one.